with Caleb Kuda.
Yes, yes. He used to come with Ascobic.
Ascobic.
Yeah. You know the interesting thing is that those times you didn't talk much.
Yes.
And that's still the memory I have, because those times when you come with Ascobic and the others, you are at the back quietly.
Yeah, I was learning.
And all of a sudden, when I saw you firing on all cylinders on national television, I struggled to reconcile. So I had to actually call Caleb and ask him whether that was a gentleman.
The gentleman, yes. You know, in a learning process, whilst you learn, you spend a lot of time observing and studying the footprints and footsteps of people. And then, right after then, you may decide to go into a state of obscurity. And then after that, when you bounce back, you put all whatever you've learned into action and an implementation. And I think that's all I came back to do. But in different forms, there were things that I decided to add on to it. And admittedly, there were things that we spoke about that we really meant them. Because in the past, many things happened. That today, sometimes, I ask myself whether we were indeed governed by people who meant well for this country. Because I simply cannot believe how we survived a period of 8 years. Today we are where we are, 4 months in government and still counting. I wouldn't say we have done it all, but I am proud of the achievements so far in government. And I believe strongly that the good people of this country will be fair in their opinion. Comparing apples to apples, you would be able to understand that we wasted 8 years of our time. I mean, from 2017 to 2024, it was a total waste of time. Look, second topic for today, for example, from 2017, the dollar was given to them at 4 cedis virtually. The dollar never came down again. It kept rising and it kept rising and it kept rising and it kept rising, and they handed over to us at about 17 Ghana cedis. Today, the dollar, yesterday night, I checked the dollar rate, and I was like, hey, if you still keep dollars, if you still have dollars on you and then you decide to keep it in your room, what about? Because ATO is performing wonders. And I'm wondering how people are going to cope with some of these things. Yesterday night, I checked the dollar rate. I made you look, 13.2. It looks as if every day the dollar comes down. Every day the dollar depreciates. And for the first time, the CD has been so proud of the NDC, has been proud of the Honorable Ato Forson, and has been proud of John Dramani Mahama. It has never happened from 2017 till date. The CD kept losing value, even when they threatened the CD. Maybe some people thought the best way to have salvage the CD at that time was to bring the IGP and cause him to frighten the CD. We don't arrest CD like mere criminals and armed robbers on the road. We use tactics, we use strategy, and that's exactly what the Honorable Ato Forson is doing today. And so this morning, I come before the good people of this country in all humility as their servant and as one person who really believes that the forward movement of the youth of this country is highly important. From my little quotas, I believe strongly that in the past few days you've seen what we've been doing at the youth employment agency.
I have to mention that these days Malik is the chief executive officer of the youth employment agency there, and so far, I mean, how has it been? I mean, it's a very important agency because of the fact that you are someone who identifies with the youth, and we know that one issue that your party won the election with had to do with joblessness.
100%.
And that's an agency that is trying to deal with that particular matter. 100%. I mean, so far, are you making any notes in that regard?
So far, so good. I won't be my own judge. I won't be my own referee. I won't mark my own scripts. I'll leave it to the Ghanaian people to best judge. But what I know is that even within the scope I operate, because I have a regulation, LI 2231, I must abide by. But we have thought outside the box. For example, at the President's 120-day social contract, he made mention of a policy we were bringing on board called the GRICS, Graduates in Corporate Support. There's a policy that was well thought through. It's not part of our LI, but we thought that the current day youth should be given some level of a corporate setup. There are young people out there who think that, yes, there are those who are interested in artisanal skills, there are those who are interested in learning other things, but there are those who are also interested in working in the corporate environment. Yeah. We have created opportunities for all. We have the apprenticeship for people who are interested in artisanal. We have the Ijumawra for young entrepreneurs who want to set up their own businesses. And we have brought upon Greeks to also touch into the graduate unemployment ratio. Whether you like it or not, there are people who have gone to school for 22 years. And I kept saying this, and I'm still seated at home. I feel their pain every morning because, I mean, you go to school, you complete, and you would have to sit at home with no job, not because you are not willing to work, but because that space hasn't been provided for you. So this time, we in the coming days have been meeting the private sector, would be engaging extensively with them, especially kicking into a 24-hour economy, so we could give them some corporate support. They are very beautiful, precious, brilliant graduate minds seated at home. And trust me, look, what the graduates of this country can do, it will marvel you. Young chaps, and you know that common phrase, they say with no experience. Yes, with no experience, but these are people that come out with fresh blood, fresh knowledge, well equipped. For 22 years in school, they didn't go to school to just look at a blackboard or attend things. They went to learn. And today, when you give them that opportunity, they're able to crack their brains. I've had extensive discussions with very young people in recent times. And look, when they talk to you, you feel like you are speaking to someone who has been working at a policy corridor for over 20 years because they've learned and they are willing to deploy it. And I'm willing to land on this. We are willing to do for the young graduate out there what he cannot do for himself. And what he cannot do for himself, I've repeatedly said, look, Blake, whether we like it or not, when you complete school, I've heard people say that I started my business with 1 cedi. I started life with 10 cedi. We are grateful, but that cannot be the story of everyone. Not everyone can start business with 1 cedi or 5 cedi or with 10 cedi. There are people who are not also business-minded, and not everybody can be a businessman. If that person graduates school and is not a business-minded person, how do you expect the person to survive? Government must mitigate that challenge. We must resolve that gap between the person and the employed ratio. That's all the YEA seeks to do.
In terms of what the YEA is doing with the private sector, I mean, how are you dealing with the issues of remuneration that is coming in? I've gone through the website and I've actually seen that some of the jobs that are available, sometimes the money is not too good. In fact, some of them even fall below. If you do the minimum wage tabulation, the total amount is even lesser than that.
First of all, let me state that I, Malik Basentali, will never sign any agreement that falls below the minimum wage. I have said this a number of times, and in recent past, you heard me on some other issues. I promised and I pledged. I cannot pay someone less than, let's say, the minimum wage and say I've given the person a job. That won't be fair. We will just pack a lot of people there and say, look, go to work because we have to give you something. Look, I would repeat it 1,000 times that I stand in solidarity with people who feel that if the salary is, let's say, 200 cedis, I won't work. I stand in solidarity with them. And I believe that because, you see, you cannot go to work and be given something that will not even last you for 10 days or for 5 days. Because you are there to work. And that atmosphere of working must be made conducive for you to bring out your all. But if you go to work and your salary within first 2 days, then we call it kwakwa job. And I have sat on this platform to say I am against kwakwa jobs. I would repeat it any day. And any company that brings a docket to me that I look on and I feel that this salary cannot at least meet there. We are not saying no Ghanaian worker is saying pay me 10 billion. Nobody is saying pay me 1 million. Nobody is saying pay me 10,000 Ghana or 20,000 Ghana. But just meet me halfway so that I know that when I go to work, I would get something to eat. I can feed on 3 square meals. And so let me assure the young graduate that any contract or agreement I, as Chief Executive of the YEA Malik Basentali, will go into will not be a rip-off. And if I'll balance it and then would meet them halfway. But you see, with Greeks, for example, we will support them with some stipend. And President Mahama has brought in good initiatives that should allow the businesses to declare supernatural profits. And I think that there's going to be a time of use tariffs for the 24-hour economy. There's going to be a reduction in taxes. The dollar is already going down. Inflation is going down. And so the atmosphere has been made conducive. The impunity of the past is gone. And so today, anybody operating will declare profits, and once you declare profits, you should be able to remunerate your staff properly. And that's all, I mean, we are out to do in this country.
All right. So that is Malik Basintale there. Joining us also in the studio, regular on the Tuesday session, and Anaya Sapon, Senior Political Aide to Alan Kojo Chairman, also with the Movement of Change. Today, a very different output, very different look. He's in a suit and tie. I've not seen him in a suit and tie in a very long time.
I said, I mean, it was my first comment when I saw him.
You are the chief individual who identifies what people wear. It's only fair that I identify that you are in the suit and tie. I like the tie actually. I like the tie.
You're backing vocalists now, so.
Oh, you had them.
But Sinteli told me I should come for interview, so
I beg you.
You were telling me about the flyer. You said you were happy when you saw.
Yes.
Okay.
So he sent a text that he would interview me today because I'm unemployed. I said okay.
You have to submit your CV first.
No, I've submitted my CV.
Oh, you sent it already?
Yes.
Hey.
Yes.
Don't worry.
He's refusing to open it, but he will open.
It's fine. Once you give your audience, it's fine.
That's not here.
So there's a lot to talk about this morning. First, we'll touch on the issues surrounding Sammy Gyamfi. We know that the minority held a press conference yesterday. Sammy Gyamfi is the CEO of the Gold Board, and we know that the minority held a news conference. They are asking that he should be sacked from office. We'll touch on that issue. Within time, we'll also try and touch on issues surrounding the CD. We know that Guta has made a call to various entities working within that framework or that body to say that, look, you have to reduce the prices because the dollar and the CD, in terms of how things are going, the CD is doing quite well, appreciating in value. So those are the two matters that will engage our attention. In between that, I've seen a statement from the minority in parliament as well. They are raising some issues about what they say is a constitutional crisis. They accuse the president of wanting to breach the constitution consistently. They say that as far as they are aware, the president is not in the country, the vice president is also not in the country, and they are aware also that the Speaker of Parliament has left the country as well. And they hold the view that that amounts to a constitutional crisis and a power vacuum has been created. And as a result of that, they do not know who is leading the country as we speak now. They make reference to a Supreme Court decision, Asari versus the Attorney General, where the court made reference to the fact that if the president and vice are not in the country, the speaker would have to take the oath and act as president. Now, the point they make is that the constitutional provision does not shift the transition from the speaker to the chief justice. And so they make the point that if we are even to assume the chief justice is supposed to act, who administers the oath to him at this point in time? Can that power even shift to the acting chief justice? All those are issues that they are raising, and I'm sure it has come to your attention. And what we'll be doing now is that we're going to start a conversation first with the issues surrounding Sammy Gyamfi and try and deal with that matter immediately. Let's take a listen to the minority as they addressed the news conference yesterday, making the point that they believe that the CEO of the Gold Board, Sammy Gyamfi, should be sacked.
CD is the sole legal tender in Ghana. There is no justification whatsoever for keeping stacks of dollars because foreign exchange businesses and international payment are regulated under Section 16 and Section 15, which provides that, and I quote, each payment in foreign currency to or from Ghana between resident and non-resident or between non-residents shall be made through a bank. The action of Mr. Sammy Gyamfi in keeping, spending, and circulating foreign currency is also an offense under Section 26 of the obligation to pay tax, and that is regulated by the income tax laws of the country. The income tax laws require that any gift received of a value, especially in money, you have to pay tax on it. So the clock has started ticking for her as well. We expect the GRA to demonstrate commitment towards curtailing the continuous evasion of gift tax, which has remained unaccounted in their books. Also answer the kind of sanctions that we expect of the president. Immediate suspension and further investigation at the least, or the termination of the acting position, because clearly you don't need a lawyer to tell you that Mr. Sammy Gyamfi has violated some laws. So we need a full-scale investigation into the source of the dollar bundle display in that viral video. We expect an apology from the president to the good people of Ghana for the insult this act represents to those suffering under this suffering economy.
Dr. Kabiru Tia Muhammad there speaking on behalf of the minority and raising concerns about the issues surrounding the CEO of the Gold Board. It was Malik you were hearing, and I was signaling that we are coming. Malik, let me start with you quickly. I think you're itching to talk. I mean, you heard them there. Just put the minority on ice for now. Don't go ballistics now. Just relax for me. I want to ask you a question first. You are still a deputy communications officer of the NDC, correct? Yeah. So I mean, Sami Jemfe is someone you work closely with.
I still work with.
You still work with, yes. The video that we all saw, the first time you saw the video, what were the thoughts that came to mind?
The first time I saw the video, I asked myself 10 questions. The first was that, is it a crime to give someone a gift? The second question was that, is it a crime to give someone the denomination as purported to be dollars? The third question was that, is it a crime to give Agrada money? The fourth question was that, has anyone been able to establish that the amount of money given does not peg onto his monthly wage or his monthly salary? And so on and so forth. And so when I analyzed the circumstances surrounding, then I asked myself a question. Is it a crime to sit in your car, count money, and give to someone? These are fundamental questions any Ghanaian watching us today will also ask him or herself. And the reason why people ask themselves these questions is because they would try hard to arrive at the point of establishing where Sami Jemfe aired. And it's just fair. Like the presidency has invited, or were said to have invited him for questioning. Anybody would ask anybody such questions. And for me, as a young man from the northern part of this country, I won't fault Sami Jemfe for even apologizing. And the reason is that, per my training, whether you are right or wrong, if there's an uproar based on morality, you ought to apologize, even before you explain yourself. Growing up, there were things I never did wrong. I was scolded for them. And per my training, all you need to say is, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Then after, if there's ever an opportunity, you explain yourself based on the facts of the circumstances. Okay. Let me state emphatically on this platform that when I watched the minority, I shook my head.
No, we'll come to the minority, but you didn't provide answers to the questions you asked.
I mean,
so what were your answers to the questions?
So I'm coming to that. Yeah. Number one, based on the first question I asked, is it a crime to give someone a gift? No. There is no law in this country that criminalizes the offering of gifts. In fact, even if you are a public officer, once a gift is given to you, there are steps you take to ratify that particular gift. And those steps were done even in recent past, where His Excellency the President declared some gifts that were given and donated them to the state. Fair enough. All presidents get some gifts. What you ought to do is to declare it and follow a procedure. Why? If there's any wrongdoing, His Excellency the former president, Nana Addo, was caught on tape taking a brown envelope with 2 hands from people. It was a gift. He never declared it. But even with that, we never penalized him for it. Fast forward, the second question, is it a crime to possess dollars? There is no law, again, in this country that criminalizes the possession of that currency, dollar. There is no law. Look, recently, last week, and even till now, our brothers and sisters have been going on pilgrimage. They don't take Ghana cedi there. Do you know that it is even more of a crime to take a lot of Ghana cedi out of this country than taking the dollar out of this country? Go and read the foreign exchange law. It is a crime. If I'm traveling out of this country, the amount of cedi I can take out is far lower than the amount of dollar I can take out. At least with dollar, we can even do up to 10,000. But with the cedi, you must do far less than it, because you cannot take that currency out. And so for our brothers and sisters who were going on Hajj, what currency did they take? Or what currency did we give them? There is no law anywhere in the books. I listened to my brother Kabiru.
We'll come to Kabiru.
Quoting, okay, I was going to Kabiru. Then the third point.
Now, if you have answered, okay.
The reason why it is not a crime to possess dollars in this country is because we even have forex. And the forex bureaus that are registered under the laws of this country permit you to buy and sell dollar.
Okay.
So if it is a crime, then the forex bureaus should be turned into chobbers, because it means that simply they are not fit to establish a fact that you go in and then you buy to possess dollars.
So the way and manner you answer the question, then the question to you then is,
yes.
I mean, why has he been invited by the Chief Justice? The Chief of Staff, sorry. The Chief of Staff. Why has he been invited
there
by the Chief
was
of Staff?
no official document anywhere.
I mean, at least we have confirmed
I'm saying that there was no official document anywhere suggesting that the Chief of Staff invited him based on A, B, C, D. And so we cannot establish that, you and I.
Okay.
But the fact still remains
the fact that we can report is the fact that the information we have is that he was invited by the Chief of Staff in connection to the video.
So if I come to your studio today and then I hug you, and people go out there to say, because Malik Basentali hacked Akable, he's a gay, and so we have to investigate him, and there's an uproar, the presidency will invite me. They'll invite me not because I'm a gay, but they'll invite me because there are public sentiments, and people think that I must come and respond to it. And so the fact that you have been invited does not simply, but this is even the Chief of Staff. The Supreme Court can even invite you. You could have a case there and you go there. But if you go to the Supreme Court, it doesn't simply mean you are guilty.
In terms of some of the questions you also asked, you agree that some of them could appropriately be answered when a proper investigation takes place. For instance, you made reference to the fact that you've not heard anyone suggest that his earnings and the money he was seen with,
100%.
They cannot correlate. 100%. You agree that only an investigation can establish that?
100%. And the government is committed to doing that. Because even yesterday, the government's spokesperson stated emphatically that we are committed to, looking into the sentiments that were raised by the public. But the fact still remains, and that's what I want to establish, that let all know that there is no law that criminalizes the possession of dollars. And let me use the Cecilia Dapa case, for example, of which people have referenced. Look, in the Cecilia Dapa matter, the crime was not in the possession of dollars. The crime was in the amount of dollars she had, just opposing it put her into. Because to have found $1 million that cannot be tallied or just opposed to her income, then it will be tantamount to a prosecution beyond hellfire. What I'm saying is that there is no law that criminalizes the possession. Look, even back in the days, before the days of Kwame Nkrumah, when you arrive in this country with dollars, you declare it at the airport. And those days in history, the only place you were even permitted to spend the dollar was around the trade fair. That's where you go and then you'll be able to purchase things. But today, Aboso kind spare part dealers, they import commodities. Do they buy them with CD? They buy it with dollar. People who import vehicles into this country or import commodities into this country, what currency do they use in trade? They use it. They use the dollar. And so if today I sit here and then I have 10,000 cedis, no law stops me from walking into a forex bureau to buy the dollar. No law. In fact, the forex bureau is even far-fetched. No law stops me from going into the Bank of Ghana to buy the dollar and then possess it. There are people who sit here. Look, I'm a public worker. And Akable, there are public servants in various institutions who go on international trips. Anytime they are going, what currency do the organizations give them? Is it the CD? Do you spend the CD in Canada? So anytime even these people, even TV3, anytime you are sent on an international assignment, what currency do they give you? I want to ask you, please, what currency? Have you been on an international trip before?
Obviously it will be in dollars.
So they give you dollars to go. So admittedly, there is no crime in the possession of dollars.
Those who are drawing the parallels with the Cecilia Dapa issue, they make the point that the principle is not more about the quantity. They make the point that it still comes back to the question you asked about the fact that if an investigation does not settle the matter of earnings and what you are found with, you cannot conclusively dismiss it. And they'll make reference to the fact that in the Cecilia Dapa instance that you made reference to, at least we know that multiple investigative agencies have handled it. And
100%.
As it stands now, there's no case
No. It was the president who wrote a love letter saying, "My sweet, precious, loving Cecilia Dapaah."
That was before the investigation.
100%. So and the president prejudiced the outcome. Yeah, so I'm saying that in the Cecilia Dapaah matter, the president, His Excellency John Mahama could have also written, "My sweet, darling boy, Sammy Gyamfi." He could have said that. In fact, even in this instance, there hasn't been any crime committed. But I'm saying that the president cleared Cecilia Dapaah. That is established. In this particular matter,
Yoko did as well.
The receiver of the money on live television, if shares is anything to go by, of which, of course, we cannot just conclude that it's even true because lawyer Sammy Gyamfi hasn't stated his side of the story. She said she received $800. Look, let's not go far on this platform. $800 to a CD today, how much is it? Let's establish the equivalent of Ghana cedi. Let's say 4 months salary of lawyer Sammy Gyamfi because he's been in office for 4 months. Are you telling me that he cannot afford that to give to someone as a gift? You see, so there are different incidents here.
But let's come
in the uproar, people established, some persons established the fact that because it was Agrada that we are angry because Agrada did not deserve that money and all of that. That matter, like I said, is not pegged onto law, so it's a separate matter. I don't know which part of the conduct lawyer Sammy Gyamfi apologized for, but I'm saying that even if I were in his shoes, as an African child and as a northern boy, I would apologize before I take steps to even explain myself to the public.
Let's now come to Dr. Kabiru Mahama, and he spoke on behalf of the minority.
Go and read the law he quoted.
This is what he's calling for.
I'm sure he needs.
He says, one, they are calling for the immediate sanctioning of Sammy Gyamfi as acting CEO of the Ghana Gold Board. They are also calling for a full-scale investigation into the source of the dollar bundles displayed in the viral video. An apology from the presidency to the Ghanaian people for the insult this act represents to those suffering under this failed economy.
So how is it an insult? That I am working, I receive salary, I meet Akable, and I say, Akable, my good friend. In fact, not that I even give. You come to me and say, "Oh, my brother Basentale, we've known each other from the days of Legon. I beg you, if you can support me with some fuel, then I give you money for fuel." Is that the offense? If that is the offense, then anytime I roam in town, I'll just put my hands in my ears and I'll be walking. Because anybody who comes to me, I'll say, "I beg you, Agrada." If you come, I'll say Agrada. Because I don't want trouble. And this deters a lot of us. You see, but point I'm making is that I will state emphatically here that this situation will not stop me, Malik Basentale, from meeting people, and if I can offer a helping hand to them, I offer. It will never stop me. I won't. Anybody who meets me, if you are in crisis and you think I can be of help to you, approach me. If I have money, I will support you. If I don't have, I'll tell you, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Al-Barakah. Then you leave me. If I have money to, Alhamdulillah, I'll help you. And this situation should not deter any appointee into stopping the charity work. Look, the previous government, if people were heartless and cruel, to the extent that if their grassroots, and I've heard a lot of their grassroots speaking, that some appointees were throwing out $50,000, $100,000 to I don't want to say ladies, because of course you can give a woman money, but they were doling out to people, and their grassroots people, some people were struggling to even reach out to them. So for me, I would admonish lawyer Sammy Gyamfi, if you go out and party, people meet you, and then they are in any sort of need and they approach you and you can support them. This matter is blown out of proportion. I'm impressed that as an African child, he's apologized. But I know that at the right time, he would explain his side of the story. Agrada, the receiver, said she received $800. And I am stating emphatically, look, Kabiru quoted this law. And let me quote it to him. I don't know how his understanding about some of these laws. The Foreign Exchange Act 2006, Act 723, Section 3, it says, a person shall not engage in business of dealing in foreign exchange without a license issued under this act. The bank shall prescribe the bank shall prescribe the banks and other corporate bodies or persons that it considers competent to engage in businesses of dealing with foreign exchange. And then it comes down to say the business of dealing in foreign exchange includes purchase and sale of foreign currency. Did you see Sammy Gyamfi buying purchase and selling foreign currency? I beg your pardon. Number 2, the receipt of or payment of foreign currency. Did you see Sammy Gyamfi paying for anything with foreign currency? and importation and exportation of foreign currency. Have you seen him? In fact, when he went to the funeral grounds, was that place Abu Dhabi to be have been exporting the dollar to? So clearly, the Ghanaian people have realized that the entire facet created by the MPP apparatchiks is a non-starter. It's dead on arrival because there is no law that criminal. Akabile, today, if you have CD, you can walk into a forex bureau and buy dollars. True or false? You can, if you have dollar, you can walk into the forex bureau and change it. True or false? So if it is illegal to possess dollars in this country, then forex bureaus should be changed into choppers, so that when we go there, we know we are going to eat fufu and abenkwai. The truth of the matter is that there is no law criminalizing the possession. There is a law criminalizing it. I dare anybody to state such law. And there is no law also prohibiting you from giving anybody dollar. For example, I have traveled, or you, Akabile, have traveled. Sometimes, you know my analysis. I like to use a lot of common sense. You have traveled, and then TV3 gave you dollar because you went to capture a story in London. Let me say that. Then you got there, and then you spent your dollar. Number one, TV3 does not expect that you spend all the dollar there. There will be some you leave in your pocket and you bring back home. So if you bring that dollar back home, when you arrived on your way home, I met you. Oh, Akabile, I'm suffering, I'm struggling, if you can help me. You look in your wallet and there's no CD. But the dollar TV3 gave you to travel is still in your wallet. Will you give it to me or not? You will give it to me. So which law criminalizes it? So in the court of common sense and in the court of public opinion, I think that the matter must be established that there is no legal basis to the minority. And for the first time, you realize that Afenyo Makin pushed Kabiru. He would have been championing it. You know Afenyo. He would have, but Afenyo is a lawyer, and he knows that if he does that, he will become a laughing stock. So he decided to push my northern brother Kabiru, and Kabiru has goofed. He's tombed. He's bamboozled. Currently, he came to the public domain to misfire. And I think that this will remain a dent on Kabiru, because people will now begin to understand that, oh, the Kabiru we had high hopes in is now engaging in very pedestrian situations, and they are non-starters. And so my advice to Dr. Kabiru is that immediately he should take steps to sanctify himself. He should stop the trajectory he's going. He should reform himself, ask for forgiveness, and then go and sit down and reflect over some of these laws, because there is no law, like I have said, that criminalizes the possession of dollar. There is no law that criminalizes the changing of dollar, and there is no law in this country that criminalizes the giving of foreign currency to any entity. And then the last on this, you see, we and are those rather putting the president in a tight corner, because I am certain that by now His Excellency the President has read the code of conduct over 10 times looking for a clause that criminalizes.
We'll come to the code.
What has been done.
We'll come to the code.
Yes.
Let me bring in
Nana
at this point in time. A special good morning to our Facebook viewers. The numbers are looking good. Share it. Let people join and watch the conversation and bring your comments. And I've seen all the comments on the Facebook stream. Very interesting debate taking place there. You are already commenting on some of the issues that Malik has raised. I mean, in due course, I'll be reading some of the messages on the Facebook handle as well. So let me bring in Nana at this point in time. And Nana, I see you taking a lot of notes. Where do you want to start on this issue for me?
Where do you want me to start?
I mean, the same question where I started with Malik from about the video. I mean, the first time you saw the video, I mean, I have seen those who watched it, and I mean, there was one description I saw on X, and a person was saying that what fascinated him about the video was the fact that he counted the money, he separated it into two. The woman took the other one. She took the one that he was keeping for himself. He took that one before she took the one that was actually being presented to her. The person said that, I mean, he just found it.
She's a whole vibe.
Yeah, I mean, that's the video that's on the screen now. I mean, what were the thoughts that were running through your mind when you saw this video?
When I first saw the video, all right, I asked myself if I were the one.
Receiving or giving?
Receiving. Would I be bold enough to snatch the rest from the car? It just shows the character and the personality involved. And it showed the extent that Sami had opened his arms to all characters. If Sami was to be somebody who is vindictive and had no foresight, I do not think that he would even be in the position to have a discourse with Agrada. From the days of her attack on the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the wife, and Madam Jane and the NDC as a party. But Sami thinking into the future and knowing that numbers do matter in issues of politics and elections, opened up his arms onto Agrada. And that in itself speaks a lot about the personality Sami. He's a nice young man who has dedicated his time, his energy, his resources to the Communication Bureau of the NDC. Prior to Sami taking over the NDC, I do not think that the Communication Bureau of the NDC was this attractive. And the likes of Malik wouldn't have had the opportunity to deputize or even had the opportunity to sit on national television to make an impact. And if the NDC's Communication Bureau, or today, the NDC being attractive to very young students across the country, one person you cannot take out is the character of Sami Gyamfi. He made it an interesting place, he made it attractive, and almost all these young people you find around have benefited in one way or the other. He's giving them the opportunity to serve the party and to serve well. He's guided them well. And for that matter, he is one person that it's difficult for them to even abandon. And I tell you, Akable, you've been in this game for a very long time. If it was any other person in this hot soup, you would know and you would agree with me that the person would have been in the hot soup alone. But because of his person, because of his contribution to the party, because of his contribution to the growth of the young people within the party. I made a Facebook post some weeks back and I said that it is better to grow human beings around you than to focus on looking for riches. Because at the end of the day, it is the human beings that will stand by you in times of battle. You need to grow mighty men of valor. And that is where Sami finds himself. Akable, when we have asked a question, fundamentally, that in this country we deal with the issues of rule of law. Legally, you are in the practice now. The question has been raised, has Sami breached any constitutional provision? Has he breached any law in Ghana? The answer is no. He has not breached any law. I have tried over the night to read most of the laws we have, including the gift laws and other things, and I noticed that he has basically not breached any other law. Not a single one of them. Not in our 1992 Constitution, not in any of the laws with the GRA, not in any of the laws with the security, finance and security, whatever. Not in any law. Even in the recent Code of Conduct that was launched by the President. If you look at the Code of Conduct launched by the President, I think page 28 of the Code of Conduct, that is if you have the soft copy. All right. Now, page 28 talks about it talks about gifts. All right. That's the 1.15. It talks about gifts. Now, if you read it in detail, word to word, you would notice that it says nothing about giving out. all it does put emphasis on is receiving. And when it talks about receiving, they are talking about a certain quantum that needs to be declared. You remember, I sat here and I said that the code of conduct in its entirety is a good idea, but I would wish that it was not rushed into being launched, but rather trigger or form the bedrock for a national discourse where experts would sit down and look at it. That this is what the president wants. What do we add on to make it more nationalistic, more broad, that it can be accepted by all and put into law, that another person will not come tomorrow and say that this is the mind and thinking of John Dramani Mahama, the president, and because he's no longer president, let's put it aside and bring our own. You would notice that if we had gone into details, probably somebody would have identified the fact that gifts go beyond just giving, but then there is an aspect of receiving. But this is where we are. So a loophole, a lacuna, has been identified. This whole brouhaha about Same gives us the opportunity to reset or to sit and have a relook, have a broader review of the code of conduct that was launched by the president, if indeed we want to use it.
I mean, Nana, there's a reference that is being made to a part of the code. I mean, if you look at page 12, item C of the statement of ethics, okay. I think it should be paragraph 12. I mean, it says that
perform his or her official duties and manage his or her personal affairs in a manner that withstands the closest public scrutiny.
I mean, the view, Malik, I'll come to you on that. No worry. I mean, there are those who, let me just put it in the context, there are those who look at that and say that the fact that the reaction from the public, it points to the fact that the conduct is such that...
If Sami had gone to the funeral grounds, like what I did, well, that Saturday I was also at the funeral, and when Hobson and PNG were dancing, I had some few CDs. I went to display more.
Oh, no dollars?
No.
Why?
I will get them later. Now, if somebody had gone on that spray, there are two sides of it. In my culture, it is acceptable. Me and Santini Bema, what you say? They are dancing at a funeral. You go as a trained, born and trained from the north. When you see somebody dancing Bambaya or Damba or whatever, you can display. But you do it to an extent. Now, what Samit did was not to display, because you will notice that it was in the privacy of his car. So it is just like me being in my room, counting money, and then somebody secretly films me and brings it out. It was in the privacy of his car. He could have decided to come out of the car to display it, but it was in the privacy of his car. Let us give respect to that also. Now, this gentleman comes out to apologize when he has not even been called to do that, because of the public uproar. Within hours, he was out, he apologized. And in fact, if you read the Facebook page of the apology on the Facebook page, it is so detailed and it is with so much remorse. This act of benevolence was not a show-off. If you know the personality of Sammy Gyamfi, this act of benevolence, or whichever word you would want to use to describe it, was not a show-off. And you can tell from the video you watched that it was just an act of kindness, which we all do as politicians, which we all do as Christians, which we all do as Muslims. Why would we want to cut off his head because he has shown an act of kindness?
I mean, now back to one question that I just want to pick your views on. One question that I put to Malik as well. I mean, we can't see a clear-cut breach of any known law. It has been argued extensively on that point. I mean, why must he be invited? I mean, just because of the public uproar. Is that fair to the young man?
Of course. I mean, it's just like when we were kids, you go to school and there's so much noise. The headmaster does not know what is causing the noise, but he hears a particular name being mentioned. You would definitely be called to the headmaster's office. And it is at that point that you are asked, why is your name all over? Then you have to explain yourself. It doesn't mean you're guilty. But what shocks me in this whole brouhaha is the gust of the minority to organize a press conference on this matter.
My goodness.
The boldness of which they go to sit for the cameras to be on them, for them to speak on this matter, and to call for the head of Sammy Gyamfi. You see, the politics of equalization is not something I like to do. But when somebody has not got the moral right to touch on an issue and the person does it with impunity, then you are forced to draw the person's attention to the fact that yesterday you had an opportunity to serve the people. What did you do? Bro, the 800, let me add up. The $1,000.
In fact, the minority statement, I don't know how they arrive at that conclusion. I see them mention 10,000.
Oh, let's use it. $10,000. To what extent is $10,000 affecting Ghana's economy? I can't believe $10,000. You think that the possession of $10,000 has a great effect and an impact on Ghana's economy to make the dollar rise from its current 12.89 cedis back to 16 cedis? Is that what we are talking about? And you want to compare this to the effect of someone hoarding in excess of $3 million in the bedroom. You want to compare it to it? You want to compare the effect of this footage on the image of Ghana's economy and direct foreign investors to a regional chairman sitting on a live television and displaying bars of gold. You want to compare this? You are calling for the head of Sammy Gyamfi when a minister's act, direct and indirect, had affected Ghana's economy so much so that 98 of his own party MPs calls for his head, and yet you refuse. Of what effect has the $10,000 on the economy? Now, let's be real. Did the minority have that boldness to go and sit? The gentleman who led the
news conference.
Conference. Is he different from the one who contested with Baumia's sister?
Yeah, he's the one.
Yeah, that's him.
That's him.
Yeah, Dr. Tiakabiru Mahama.
Has he been able to tell us how much he spent on his primaries? Has he an audited account? How much he spent to be an MP? When he goes to his constituency, and he's dashing out money to his constituents, paying school fees, donating to churches, doing sarah and giving to mosque, does he come to tell Ghanaians? Has he told Ghanaians how he makes his money? You don't live in a glass house and throw stones. Yes, I totally agree. I mean, Sami could have done better. You understand me? But the circumstance within which he found himself, what else would he have done as a political figure? As somebody who leads a communication bureau, having your party people around you, when you have met them in a function, and each one of them is calling you and pulling you. Last week we were here. I was here with Hamza, right? You saw me sitting in this car. When we got out, they were waiting for us. My car was parked out. So I sneaked into his car.
Someone was waiting. It's a coded language. They were waiting for us.
They were waiting for us. No, you saw it.
Yeah.
I sneaked into his car. This is an everyday life thing. And so let us not act hypocritical about this.
Okay.
And pretend that we don't do it. And in any case, the quote, the law the gentleman was using.
The WAP law.
You see,
I don't know who read it for him.
You want to. One aspect is domestic. The other has to do with trading. And you want to force the trading, the side that you deal with in terms of trade. So it means that I cannot even give my wife a dollar bill. That is what he's trying to tell us. What he's trying to tell us is that you cannot domestically, even if you are traveling, you cannot have a dollar bill in your pocket. Because then we would have to close all our dollar accounts. If you have to go and register. I wanted to read, my phone is frozen. If you are reading, you are a lawyer, my brother.
The law?
Yes.
Yeah, I read it.
I beg, read. You open it for me, let me read. Sometimes, you see, these words that...
So the requirement of license,
the Forex
3.
Exchange Act, Section 3,
A person shall not engage in the business of dealing in foreign exchange without a license issued under this act. The bank shall prescribe the banks or other corporate bodies or person that it considers competent to engage in the business of dealing.
No, hold on.
Yeah.
The bank shall prescribe the banks. The bank here in BOG shall prescribe the banks here in the commercial banks or other corporate bodies or persons that it considers competent to engage in the business of dealing in foreign exchange. Was that the foreign exchange business?
In fact, when you go to
don't write.
Yes.
The 4 gives the breakdown.
Yeah.
Or see, the business of dealing in foreign exchange includes purchase and sale of foreign currency. Were they buying and selling? You see, when you do this, you see it. People will text you and say you are defending it. We are like MP. You have researchers, you have research assistants. B, receipt or payment of foreign currency. C, importation and exportation of foreign currency. And D, lending and borrowing of foreign currency. So he sat down, read through the Foreign Exchange Act, Act 723. Expunged there.
Expunged it.
Then wrote a press statement and came to read it to Ghana, for Ghanaians to hear.
Now, let me come to Malik now. And Malik, there's a part of Sami's statement that I found quite interesting. And he says that I must say that I understand the uproar that this gesture has generated, particularly from comrades who are sincerely hurt by same. I mean, as someone who identifies with the young people in your party, yes. I mean, what's your understanding of what Sammy is communicating?
Can you take that again, please?
He says that I must say that I understand the uproar that this gesture has generated, particularly from comrades who are sincerely hurt by same. To all such comrades, I'm sincerely sorry for this unfortunate act of indiscretion. I respect and appreciate your views.
Yeah, the point is that Sammy Jemfi is the managing director of Gold Board by virtue of the fact that the NDC is in power. I mean, regardless all other professional stance. His party is in power. His Excellency, the nation builder, gave him the opportunity. And his party is in power because comrades supported and Ghanaians brought the government, I mean the party, into governance. And so, if anything goes wrong, or if there's any uproar, he would admittedly owe the grassroots an apology. And he's a grassroots man, like myself. For me, if there's any issue today on any particular matter, I would apologize to the Ghanaian people, I apologize to my party, I apologize to His Excellency the President, I apologize to the grassroots. These are people I apologize to. Of course, you don't expect him apologizing to Donald Trump or apologizing to Putin. He would apologize to the people within the space of which he operates, and exactly what he did. And I've said that I am 100% in support of his apology first to the Ghanaian people. As a humble man and as a well-trained and well-cultured man, even before you are given an opportunity. You see, the military have been saying that do before you complain, also do before you complain. So immediately, once there was an uproar, whether you like it or not, it's a fact. And so once there was an uproar, whether it was legitimate or not legitimate, as a Ghanaian child, if I were the one, like I said, for me, Sammy even wrote a half page. Maybe I would have written 4 pages of apology, apologizing to the Ghanaian people. That's what a humble man would do. Then you sit back. Then you now plead with people to give you an opportunity to say your side of the story. There's a reason why when you go to court, the first question the judge will ask you is, are you guilty or not guilty? They are waiting to see if you would apologize or you not apologize. If you are, then if you say not guilty, you delve into the matter. But when Sammy came, he said, look, whatever the issues may be, right or wrong, I apologize. Any day he has an opportunity, he will explain. But for us, who would also read Ghanaian law and understand Ghanaian law, it's our duty to state state emphatically what the facts are. And like I've said, number one, it is not a crime to possess dollars in this country. Don't let it deter you. If you can go to a forex and then change dollar. Number two, it is not a crime to support people when they meet you and you can. Me, Basentale, I have said it on this platform, that if I walk out of your office today and I meet people there and I have money, I will support them. There is no law bearing it. And nobody should be afraid to approach me or approach even Sammy Jemfi, because Sammy will not change from his generosity. He's a good man and he will continue to support people. If he can, he will. If he cannot, he will say, I cannot. And that is the law. Number three, forex bureaus exist because it's not a crime to possess dollars. And I've stated emphatically that if it is a crime to possess dollars, all forex bureaus should be changed into choppers, so that we know that we don't even have the legitimate right to write. Now, in 2019, let me read this from the Bank of Ghana. This is 2019 under MPP. The Bank of Ghana said, brought regulations to peg onto the Foreign Exchange Act 2006. It says that any person arriving or departing is permitted to carry up to $10,000 or its equivalent. That alone suggests that if you are traveling or if you have an intended trip or whatsoever, this is the peak. But even if you are not traveling and you can peg your salary onto, you can, explain the income of the possession of that particular dollar, there are no problem. When Cecilia Dapa's case went to court, if you remember, one of the questions they asked her was to account for how she got those dollars. Then she said it was for her brother in Kumasi, who was a shoemaker. So now shoemakers, her brother, who is a shoemaker, was charging people in dollars. That is the crime. We have spare part dealers, we have importers who trade and go to buy their goods in dollars. Our sisters and our family just went to Mecca. They didn't take Ghana cedi. Okay. We bought dollars and we gave to them. So the possession of dollar, you agree, it's not a crime. I think you've made that point. And certainly so.
There's a lawyer, Elik Plim Agbemava, you know him?
Yeah, Agbemava.
Elik Plim Agbemava. He's a member of the NDC. You know him.
I know him.
Yes.
I know him.
He's written actually saying that he's writing because those who think they can insult our intelligence over this Sami Gyamfi issue.
Yes.
Some of the nonsense is that Sami lives in a plush area and must be assumed to be rich enough to own dollars to distribute to whoever he chooses. He goes on and concludes that what we expect next is a disciplinary procedure to look into the leaked video. Action must follow the words, otherwise we risk dissipating the 57% and 2/3 majority in just 6 months in power. He makes the point that oral has barely taken off and we are faced with the biggest challenge with this exceptionally careless behavior from Sami Gyamfi. I need not say.
Who said that?
I don't bear.
I don't believe that statement came from Elikple. I don't believe it. I'm yet to.
I'll share it with you.
So you share a copy.
Yes.
I'll study it later because
No
you see, and was a law quoted in that statement.
No.
As to the crime Sami Gyamfi committed. So we are dealing with law. If there is any law stated, and in this particular instance, look, first let's take note that the receiver claimed it was $800. Now in the video you see that the receiver even snatched part of the dollar. It means that maybe Sami was even counting, let's say, according to her, $200 or $300, and she snatched the remaining. So today if I'm working, now somebody snatches my money, it will now be termed as a show off. Is that what you are saying?
Okay.
If I put 20,000 Ghana in my car, or I put $500 in my car, and somebody snatches my $500, or I'm holding it, and then you snatch my $500, they will now prosecute me because they say I was showing off. Somebody moved into his car, and that's his private space. And then he decided to start counting. In the video, you see that the person snatched the remaining money. And even together, plus the snatched and the gift that was to be given, she said it's $800. And then you think
Dr.
that
Kabiru says it's 10,000.
No, let me tell you why Dr. Kabiru has even conveyed. He first said it was 10,000. Later he said when he monitored, it was 1,800 pieces. There were 1,800 pieces. I have the audio. So $1,800. Then in another instance, he says when he was counting and monitoring, hey, Kabiru. You see, this particular Kabiru himself knows that he has goofed. We accept wholly that lawyer Sami Gyamfi has apologized for the uproar. Let issues calm down. I have said that there's no law criminalizing it. There are better matters we should be discussing. The CD is dropping, solid remarks, solid display of competence by the finance minister and the president. Today, fuel prices are being reduced. Solid display of competence by His Excellency the President. Our year ones are about to go to school. President Mama says you are going to school for free. We've just launched our portal. We're open for fire service assistants to apply. In the coming week, we're open for police assistants to apply. In the next week, we're open for Greeks. For the first time in 8 years, we are bringing a model called the Arabic Teachers Model. We are going to the Zongos to train teachers to teach Arabic in our various Zongo schools. 8 years, Dr. Baumia was an allergy. He couldn't implement that policy. We are doing it now. Today, our economy is stabilized to the extent that inflation is dropping. Guta, and I think that will even be the second topic. Guta is appealing to their members to reduce prices of commodity. In a very long time, anytime you hear Guta speak, they are pleading on the government to stabilize the economy. For the first time, Guta is rather pleading on members to reduce prices because there's economic stability. For the first time, we don't have a president flying a private jet at £14,000. And you see, even President Akufo-Addo, those his private jets, he used to rent them in pounds. But today we don't have a president flying a private jet in pounds. Today we don't have scandals like the PDS, like the Ameri scandal, and so many other things. Today, at least, the National Cathedral is on the hold, and people are being investigated for it. The Ghanaian people appreciate what the government is doing. Like I keep saying, we may not have done all for everybody, but Ghanaians have seen that the good steps we are taking are yielding results. And if in 4 months we've been able to do this, if you today Ghanaians have seen the shoe and they know where we are going and they know there's prosperity ahead of us. That is what we should be discussing, not this particular matter.
I'll come back to you and Nana to wrap up on this conversation. Let me bring in Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere. Doc is a governance and political analyst we speak to on various issues of national interest. Doc, thank you for joining us this morning. Hello, Doc.
Good morning.
Yeah, Doc, I just want to wrap up this conversation with you on this Sammy Gyamfi issue, the minority and all the matters that have come up. I mean, is this a storm in a teacup, or there's something that as political watchers we should be worried about in terms of what we are seeing so far?
That's an interesting perspective that you are bringing on board, throwing that particular question to me. I like the way Mr. Basintale, argued on this particular issue. But you see, when you go into the content of whatever transpired and to create some kind of justification, then it means that you are virtually creating some kind of a problem for yourself, or a controversy, or some kind of complexity. Here is the case. The young CEO has admitted some kind of indiscretion. And as a mark of someone who's a grassroots person, who recognizes that he is a political figure and very important and significant person at that, he apologizes unconditionally. So I expect each and sundry to ensure that they focus on the apology, because it hasn't come easy. And I think that as of yesterday, for example, I had done about 13 interviews on this particular issue, spanning from different platforms and different television stations. And you see, the cause of the controversy is not about Mr. Sammy Gyamfi's magnanimity. It's about the very person that magnanimity was done for. And whichever way you look at it, it is not good for the optics, for the grassroots, which Basintale is proudly someone who generated support base from that particular base.
Just to add, but I have not in any way.
It is not good for the optics, for he himself, as a young and abandoned politician for that matter. And it is not good for the optics for the party and the party in government and the presidency. Because not long ago, the president launched what we call the Code of Conduct. Opulence, which Professor Mills preached against the MPP in those years. And when he also got into power, he preached against that. Whichever way you look at it, this is a genuine magnanimity or a kind gesture gone wrong. As to whether the recipient had a motive for either it was planned or not, you can never tell. But as smart and intelligent as Sammy Gyamfi has always been, and he himself has projected a kind of standard within the public space that has ensured that the MPP has gone down the ground. What that means is that high standard, you will be judged by it. Therefore, having found yourself in the public domain, there is a need for you to uphold a certain standard. And that's the more reason why the president launched the Code of Conduct. If, for example, some group of persons who are appointees of the president did not submit their asset declaration on time and they were punished, what was the punishment? To forfeit 3 months of salary, plus 1 month as as all appointees ought to do for the Mahama care. That tells you that the president in his current state is ready and willing to crack the whip whenever anyone falls. But that is not to suggest that this is the case with respect to Mr. Sammy Gyamfi. When this issue came up, we have heard several things in the vineyard that indicates that, look, even journalists are complaining that whenever they call him, he doesn't pick. How did you get there? So that in itself, you ought to work on that. That is just an aside. But coming back to the substantive issue, I believe that his main trump card is the apology that he rendered. and he must purge himself before the grassroots, which Mr. Basintele knows that the man is a grassroots person. He must purge himself before the neutrals of this country. He must purge himself before the presidency, the party structure. And that is the more reason why, Adopt Ahata for that apology, unqualified apology that he rendered.
I mean, Doc, your main concern is what you say is the display of opulence. I mean, one would argue strongly that someone meets an individual, the individual requests money, he goes into his car where he's picking money to give to that individual, someone videos it and puts it out there. The argument would be that that cannot be a display of opulence. If he wanted to display opulence, he would have perhaps taken out the money and would have doled it out right there and then. But rather, he took the lady into the car. And so the argument has been made that it's rather his privacy that has been breached by whoever decided to film this incident and put it out there. And that there's no purging he has to purge at this point.
I can believe. I can appreciate your justification. Before he went into his car, they took pictures of himself and the woman, Agrada, before he went into his car. As smart and intelligent as he is, I expected of him that most likely they could video that. And when he turned and was even counting the money for the woman, obviously, things of that nature would easily come out. Look, the subject matter is the fact that it is Agrada. And that is the more reason why we don't need to justify that before the grassroots. That will infuriate them. And that's the more reason I appreciate the fact that we apologize unconditionally. And I believe that the communicators of the party should latch on that particular apology.
Yeah, I mean, but Doc, the question still remains that because your substantive concern is what you describe as the opulence being displayed, and the point still remains that he went into the privacy, a private space, to try and assist or extend the helping hand that he wanted to. And I mean, if the camera had not made its way into the car to video him, I mean, this will not even be a subject of discussion.
It is still inappropriate that in a country where we spend cities, somebody can take dollars from his car and give to a woman that's a woman who doesn't have scruples.
I mean, the response.
It doesn't look good for the optics in terms of the political effect of it. You see, it is often said that, and that has always been a refrain. In our part of the world, opposition parties don't win elections. It is often the party in government that loses because you have resources and you are always the benchmark, you are always the standard. And President Akufo-Addo did not set any good standard for us. And that is the more reason why the party lost overwhelmingly. Look, there are certain basic things, intangibles, that Ghanaians really consider as things of value. This is a kind gesture gone wrong. And it ought not to have been a woman who does not have scruples, a woman who uses profanity on various platforms. On what basis? I have said time without number that I will never allow that woman to come anywhere close to me, either in public or in private. So I don't know whether my friend Samijenti was hypnotized into believing that and becoming oblivious of the fact that in this world, an information world, things of that nature couldn't easily have been recorded.
Doc, wrapping up with you, I mean, we are now. What should happen going forward? You said he needs to purge himself. I mean, the chief of staff, we understand, has invited and has had interactions with him. What exactly do you expect to happen in order to just put this matter away once and for all?
Well, I think that decision remains the preserve of the president. I've listened to Madam Madai. She feels that either she is publicly recommended, or others have recommended some kind of suspension. You cannot underestimate the role of Mr. Samijenti in the victory of the NDC. And where he occupies now is a sensitive position. And if others, like other appointees of the president, have gotten their salaries retained 3 months, or they forfeited 3 months potentially of their salaries, then, something as indiscreet as what has happened, and of which the main actor himself has admitted, then probably the president will have to come up with something, some kind of repudiation, some kind of reprimand, and I don't believe that this meets the threshold of a sacking, not at all.
Okay.
And I think that's why I said that he must purge himself profusely.
I mean, another code of conduct, apology is one way of dealing with it. It's even already rendered the apology even before whatever process takes place. I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is a mark of someone who admits that in the political terrain, when something goes wrong and you admit it, that in itself is not easy to do so. We never saw kinds of things of that nature in the previous regime on a regular basis.
Okay.
And that, for me, is a mark of a good leader. It's a mark of someone who admits that, look, this thing was indiscretionally done, and I render unqualified. He never qualified his apology, unqualified apology. Okay. And it doesn't come easy. That is what he must dwell on. Okay. And he must pledge himself accordingly.
Okay, Doc, we'll leave it here for now. Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere is a political and governance analyst. He joined us with his views on the Malik. I want you to be very direct
on this. I mean,
on your reactions as we wrap up on this discussion.
Made very beautiful, explanations to all of this. You see, there are two things of which Dr. Asante himself admits. We have the uproar from comrades, of which lawyer Sammy Gyamfi has apologized, and we stated on this platform. And we agree that his apology was not just to comrades, but the entire Ghanaian populace. And it is because he hasn't breached the code of conduct, or because he hasn't breached any law, that he apologized for the discretion. Because he felt that, look, people have exercised their displeasure on one or two things, as to whether it is Agrada the money was given to, as to whether you get my point. But he's apologized, and he asked that people forgive him for whatever they were thinking about the situation. And I repeatedly said that as an African child and as a young man, I would do same 1,000 times, even before I get any opportunity of explaining myself. However, the fact still remains, and Doc agrees with me, that no law has been broken. Okay. No code of conduct has been broken. Okay. And then if you go into details of the entire facet, and I was responding to a lot of things that were raised by Dr. Kabiru. You see, to land on this, Doc made a point, I know it's a jovial one, that he has vowed that Agrada never comes close to him. You see, if Dr. Asante walks freely in town, and then Agrada comes close to him, and he decides to say, I'm not ready to see you, and moves away, nobody will chastise him.
For a public official,
absolutely,
it's a completely different ball.
But if I do it, people will chastise me. Do you get the difference? And so Doc can decide to say, okay, I'm not ready to see this. You remember a recent video where the Honorable Okujato Ablakwa
actually
even asked people.
There's a longer video, but the shorter video is what went viral.
That he said, look, come to the office. Just come to the office became a matter in this country. Because people felt that, oh, you're a public officer. And so if he's a public officer, shouldn't he go for meetings, or shouldn't he represent the country in other matters? He didn't even turn them down. So you see, what Dr. Asante will do and go free. Look, I bet you 1,000 times. If Dr. Asante had given $20,000 to Agrada in the same circumstance, nobody would have criticized him. Do you get my point? It would have been no news. But if we do it, and that's the point I'm establishing for Doc to understand, that he can do certain things and go free. But some of us, and he says I'm a grassroots person. Yes, if I do certain things, my grassroots will attack me, the public will attack me.
The grassroots,
and
they are saying that they want dollars. They are not getting the dollars. And Agrada, in fact, some have made reference to the fact that there are comments of her attacking the president.
Yes, but the point I'm making is that the grassroots have admitted...
And that is what has angered the
grassroots have admitted that for some time, they even go to lawyer Sammy Gyamfi with some issues, as and when he could, he supported them. They've admitted that. So Sammy has come to apologize, and his apology is saying that, look, whether I'm right, I'm wrong, unconditionally, I apologize for it. But the fact we are establishing is that no law was broken, and it's not tantamount to dismissal. So myself and Doc, I think, are on the same page.
Nana, wrap up for me in a minute or two.
Three things I would say. That he who seeks equity must do equity. All right, that is number one. Number two, he who comes into equity must come with clean hands. And number three, this should form the basis why there should be a review of the code of conduct that was launched by the president. I think that today you will agree with me that indeed when I was saying that there was a possibility of a lacuna in the code of conduct, it is true. Yeah. Let us look at it, and then let's move forward.
Okay. So that is it by way of our first discussion. There are a lot of comments on social media. Let me see if I can quickly run through some of them. Derek Cosby, he said, no one dare touch Sami Jemfi, else they will see. Okay. Another one here says, this, okay, you raised some issues there. There's one here, Adams Nate Mikali, you are saying that Malik should not defend. He said, my advice to Malik about the Sami issue is that in as much as he loves Sami, he should be able to tone down his defense. Another one here says, so Dr. Jonathan is saying Agrada is the Satan of Ghana or what? Let's stop judging people. That is from Perpetual Kachuku.
That's also another point, you see.
Another one here says we should leave this discussion and focus on other matters. There's no evidence of missing money from Gold Board. That is from Frank McCaffrey there on the social media handle. Lots of comments coming in there. Thank you all for staying tuned in. This one is too long. Banu Harun, I've seen your message, but it's too long for us to go through that. So that is it by way of our first discussion. Let's now talk still about dollars, not the one that is generating controversy, but the one that has got a lot of people talking. We know that dollar politics has always been a big deal in this country. The last time we had this conversation, I drew your attention to the fact that 100 days in office, Vice President said that the dollar had been apprehended and the keys had been handed over to the IGP. At the time they were exiting office, the dollar had virtually taken over all facets of national life. And there are those who are already warning that it's too early for government to be excited about that. The conversations around if the fundamentals are weak, they say what the exchange rate will expose you. Malik?
Well, like I said earlier, we believe that so far we have started well. We won't be our own judges and won't mark our own scripts, but the facts are the facts.
Okay.
And the fact remains that in the last few months, the finance minister, the economic team have performed creditably well.
Okay.
And I think that you honor whom honor is due.
Malik, I'll come back to you shortly. Let me just bring in Dr. Peter Tekwe. He's an economic policy analyst. Doc, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks very much, and good morning to our charity viewers.
Doc, what I want you to do is, there's a part of this conversation that is generating some controversy. There are those who hold the view that we can't attribute the good performance of the city to internal factors. They make reference to the soaring gold prices, and they say that that is what is accounting for what we are seeing now. They also additionally say that it appears to be a bit of a trend in the early days of the year. This is how things look generally. What's your own understanding of how the city is performing as against the dollar particularly?
Well, if the city should be performing worse, and let's say it's heading towards 16, 18, we'll have been chastising the government and the major stakeholders. So if it's going well, it's fair to give the credit to them. Normally, that is how these things play. I mean, if it's good, you'll be called out. If it's bad, the same applies. But when we talk of the current situation, the city appreciation or depreciation is based on two basic factors, demand and supply. And anytime demand outweighs supply, that is where we normally see that volatility in the depreciation. And there are factors that brings about this volatility. And so when those factors are inuring to your benefit, then of course, that's where you see the appreciation. If it goes the other way, then you see the depreciation as well. But this instance, let's look at what is happening. Then we'll better appreciate whether it is sustainable or otherwise. In Ghana, our sources of inflow for FX or USD is normally from export of our commodities or our items. Let's say you are exporting oil. So we export oil, we export gold, we export cocoa, and other non-traditional commodities. Now, the quantum or the amount of these export inflows will determine your reserve. So if you have enough reserve that can meet the demand, then you are good. Currently, what is happening is that the factors that influences demand for the dollar are low. Number one, when you have a lot of transactions happening such that people are using more of USD or foreign currency, then the demand becomes high. We know that because of the trade war that is happening between the biggest economies of the world, I mean America and China and the rest, realize that demand for USD has gone down. So for instance, in the past few weeks or months, no single cargo or ship has left China to the American ports, major ports. And so definitely demand for USD globally will go down. The same way you have other transactions that people will have done in terms of import of oil. We know that in Ghana, one of the biggest consumption of our petroleum of FX is import of petroleum. And because world prices have gone down, definitely the amount of USD that will be needed has also gone down. These are two major things. And now let's look at the source of our inflow. You know that when this government took office, some of the things they did is that they want to curtail expenditure. And so and then increase our revenue. Now, before the previous government left office, there was something that they did that has not been happening in the past years, where they wanted to, get the Bank of Ghana to reserve gold, to buy gold and then reserve. In the previous year, this was not happening. Bank of Ghana was not dealing in that. And so that is giving the country enough reserves. And then when this government took over, they have also regulated or restructured the industry such that now more money will come into more forests will come into the system. This one is very sustainable, which means that the country will continue to have enough effects in the coming months because of what they have done now. Because of this, our reserves will continue to go up. And when the reserves continue to increase, then definitely as demand also goes up, you have enough to inject into the market. The challenges that we have faced in the past is that when we are in a peak season where demand for USD is increasing, unfortunately, supply becomes a challenge. And supply will only become a challenge when you have the reserves of the central bank, going down. We have currently about 10 billion reserves already of forex, which means that the government has enough to put into the market even when demand goes up. One factor that is also inherent to the benefit of this government is the debt restructuring. Normally in the past, because we have offshore investors who invest in the economy like the Eurobond, anytime they are moving out, it becomes a drain on the FX. So they need FX to move out. Because of the restructuring, all this will not happen. So it means that these are factors that are inherent to the benefit of this government. And because they are also mobilizing enough, or they're doing it, they are working to shore up the reserves of the central bank. It means that in the coming months or days, when even demand goes up, they are in a better position to be able to supply the market. And that is the good thing. And so what is happening is a mixture of factors that influences demand and supply, and then government-owned policy that is also helping to shore up the reserves.
Doc, and in wrapping up with you on this issue, there are those who are already making the point that how do we translate this to affect the ordinary Ghanaian? And they make the point that in times past, when the city is not doing so well, almost immediately we see prices going up. In fact, Guta, they are making a call for members to reduce their prices. I've also seen a publication from a popular furniture company that have decided to slash their prices by 15%. How can the government go around ensuring that some or a lot of the companies or agencies move in this direction?
One of the reasons why we are not seeing the immediate impact is because the economy is not structured to have such automatic reflections of these factors in the economy. And so it will take some time, about 2-3 months. Don't forget that what is also happening now, it has not happened in so many years, where you see the city appreciating so fast. So people are thinking that, well, this is just a 9-day wonder. It will reverse again. And so let's wait, because people are saying they bought goods at higher prices. And so if they reduce it, by the time they'll go back to say they're going to buy, the rate might have gone up again. So they want to do a wait and see. And so that is the reason why we don't see the impact immediately, because the economy is not structured. Let me give you a typical example, for instance, transport. Assuming that we have an automatic adjustment where it says that if you have A, B, C, D factors going down, automatically transport fares will go down, then nobody will say dollar is going down, fuel prices are going down, so GPRTU transport, let's go and meet and decide how much to reduce transport fares. If there's an automatic formula or automatic system in place, it will just take effect, and so nobody will have to go and tell anyone to do so. But this system is not there. So the way the economy is structured, that is how come you don't see this effect coming up immediately. But it will take some time. Maybe it is too early for us to start having this conversation, because what is happening now is just because of the mixture of external and internal factors. And we should wait and see how government will be able to live to sustain this. Because one of the good things we are seeing now is that government is being fiscally, disciplined. If it continues, then that is going to help us. But if we're going to see the situation where government starts going to the external market to borrow, and then you see external offshore investors coming into the system, and then they'll start going out, then you see that challenge happening. So it is good that what is happening is helping is not helping that. It's good that what is happening is going to be sustainable, but it depends on how government is going to stay disciplined on what they are doing. And that is why we should wait and see.
Thank you very much, Doc, for joining us this morning. Dr. Peter Tekpe is an economic policy analyst. And let me come to Nana, then I'll wrap up with Malik, 2 minutes each. Nana, is it too early for the government to be celebrating? They should just hold on a bit, or, I mean, if things are looking good, I mean, politicians have to take credit.
You remind me when someone organized a Wachi and a Kinke party. You know? But this is economy. I think that, yes, the government needs to motivate itself for how far they have brought us, moving the dollar from a 16 plus to this morning, I think, is at 12.9. That is a bank rate. Now let's put that in perspective. And I love how Dr. Tekpe gave us a breakdown. On another platform yesterday, I said that if the Russian-Ukraine war and the COVID was mentioned when we were facing the challenges, and the challenges were attributed to Russian-Ukraine. Some people wanted us to believe that. Then there is nothing wrong with us praying that the trade war should continue, so that Ghana would actually benefit more. But just as Doc said, it is not just about the trade war. It is also about the monetary policy that has been enhanced by the BOG. What's the governor's name?
Dr. Siama.
Dr. Siama. Yeah. Fantastic job. And the fiscal discipline. See, my brother, when you would have a government that does not respect its own fiscal discipline that it has put in place, you would face most of these challenges.
Okay.
I have heard some from the opposition say that the government is not paying contractors and it's not spending, and for that matter, this is all. To an extent, somebody says that even the budget that is being run is not the budget that was read by Atufos, but rather the one that was handed over to him. Whichever the case may be,
okay,
there has been a government that has put in place disciplinary measures to be able to hold the economy.
Okay.
And of course, this would roll us back into the efforts that were put in place by the Gold Board. I have said that on your platform, you remember?
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
I said that until we get a government that will put in deliberate efforts to control our gold market, to ensure the sustainability of the gold reserves, we will continue to face the challenges we are facing.
All right, that's fine.
And as it stands now, Akable, if the government decides to go the way it is going, and the government is able to deal with waste, all right, and actually pull together resources and have targeted industrial sectors, then we can go forward.
Okay.
I have a little challenge when we want to force the market people to reduce their prices. Now, if we have a market person who does just importation, bringing direct products, they can have that feel of the drastic change in the forex. But the manufacturers will not have same, because there are a lot of other factors that go into it. They have the utilities, they have other elements that comes together with the forex for them to be able to know the cost of their production.
Okay.
But nevertheless, once we are seeing these changes in our forex, we would urge them, even if not now, going a month or two, we should be able to see the effect of the changes on our markets. Inflation has gone down. Inflation is now about 21%.
In fact, it's been going down from last year. I mean, from latter last year, it's picked up this year, gone down significantly.
T-bills rates are down. And so it means that interest rates are down, interbank rates.
Okay.
Which means that access to credit is cheaper now.
Okay.
What we have to look out for is whether or not the credit is available for the people to get.
Okay.
But if all these elements or factors that go into businesses are dropping, then we ought to be able to see it reflect on our markets.
Okay. Okay. Let me wrap up with Malik on this. And I mean, there are those who are cautioning you that, I mean, with how government is celebrating this, eventually, you know how you've been in the game for a while. You know how dollar politics plays out eventually.
We're not playing politics with the dollar this time. The only politics that was played with the dollar was when the IGP was hauled before public and then accused of having the keys of the dollar in his pockets, when in actual sense he wasn't even aware of the arrest of that particular dollar, and you could tell from his facial expression. Look, if I tell you that with the depreciation of the dollar today and the appreciation of the cedi, if the MPP were in power, they would have, as usual, held the Kinky and Wache party at the finance ministry. I'm telling you, when mere bonds, were oversubscribed, didn't they hold the Kinky and Wache with Salmon Fish party at the finance ministry? And so I'm telling you that if they were in power today, they would have done that. Okay. But look, the dollar has dropped from 17 cedis to 12 Ghana cedis. Let's say 13. And no one, the finance minister at Tuforsen hasn't even mounted a podium to say, praise me for what I'm doing. You know why? Because he believes there's more to be done.
Okay.
And he believes that if his aim were to bring the dollar to 13 cedi, he would have been done with his work by now.
Okay.
But the aim is to bring the dollar down, to reduce inflation, stabilize the economy, ensure workers get good remuneration, ensure businesses, declare profits, and ensure that every Ghanaian benefits from the economic stability would be seen. And so, yes.
You see, the economy, we should agree that it's a growing concern.
Yes.
You understand? Everybody is concerned about it. In his office now, Malik has been able to put up some apps to be able to recruit people.
Sure.
artisans. Of course, we are going to get to a point where in Ghana, you would know the number of masons that are available who are Ghanaians, who are not Ghanaians. Okay. You get to a point where we'll be able to know the number of electricians we have who are Ghanaians and those who are not Ghanaians. And we will be able to know where government contracts and individual contracts will be heading to. All of this helps in the growing of
the economy, absolutely.
So we should.
This is a conversation we'll have subsequently, depending on how things look in the country. But
let me get last one.
Yeah, just
our portal for the work abroad has been opened.
Okay.
We want to ensure legal, legitimate, and well-coordinated export of labor, so that when they work for some years, we bring them back to inculcate whatever they've learned into our local economy. The portal is opened, and we need some professional ladies, factory hands. The first one is in Abu Dhabi. Very soon, we are securing slots in the US, Canada, the United Kingdom, and all these countries, so we could have a seamless, smooth, coordinated, well-coordinated labor export, and then they learn and
I thought you would tell him to give thumbs ups to Alan Shamantin, because if you remember,
it was part of
during
the
manifesto. No, manifesto. We launched the 3MG.
Fantastic.
That's fine. Let me do some messages and wrap up quickly here. This one is from Prince.
No, but these are parties that think alike.
This is a message from Prince Henry from Koforidua. He says, "Good morning, Joe. The MPP should be the least party to be talking about Sami Jemfi kind gesture." He says, even cash for seat cry, the MPP defended it. And Ebo Backman, who comes, Ebo Backman, they are all responding. Ebo Backman says he agrees with Dr. Jonathan Asante to some extent. Sami Jemfi's conduct is reprehensible, not because it breaks any law, but due to its damaging optics. His apology is also highly commendable, as is the government's swift response, which reflects a commitment to high standards. However, the MPP's attempt to equate this with Celia Adapa's case is laughable and unjustified. The comparison is a clear case of false equivalence. The two situations are fundamentally different and should not be conflated. That is Ebo Backman who sent that. That is all time would allow us on big issues today. My guests have been the Malik Basintale boy, CEO of the YEA. Malik, thank you so much for joining us. My viewers on Facebook, they are saying that we should convince you and give you a day and you have to come.
Sure.
I'm sure Shadrach will take you up.
I can get a permanent day.
Yes, Shadrach will take you.
TV3 is always a good place because you are discerning. Not to run down any other.
Shadrach will take you up on that and we'll get that sorted. But Nanaya, who sticks to the Tuesday regularly, unless he has some urgent business somewhere where he will not tell us. And Nanaya Osapon, senior political aide to Alan Kujo chairman. You heard from Dr. Peter Tekpa, he's an economist. He joined us for the Dollar conversation. Earlier on the Sami Jemfi discussion, we also had Dr. Jonathan Asante join us as well. That's it for Big Issue. Cash Kukuti will continue with the other segments. Stay tuned in.